good morning. We are going to be filming from our office today with our ambassador, box turtle Clifford. It's just me this morning, so you might be flipping the camera back and forth a little bit. But if you are here and would like to check in, we can certainly give you a shout out. Please let us know if you have any questions. And as always, there's a little donate button right up on the side there. Thank you so much for donating. We are here with our ambassador box turtle Clifford this morning, one of our 4 ambassador box turtles. He is ready to meet you guys. We're gonna watch him walk around. We're gonna see if he wants to eat something. But definitely come on in, let me know that you're here, and we will get started. Hi, Clifford. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name is Katie. I'm our education outreach specialist here at the Center for Wildlife, and we are here with Clifford, our box turtle ambassador. Good morning, Penelope, Julian, and Charlie. Good morning. Thank you so much for letting us know that you're here. Everybody, please let me know. I'd love to say good morning to you guys. We are limited staff-wise today, so we have 3 people here. We're trying to be as careful as we possibly can, and so it's going to be me holding the camera. Hi, Kim. Thank you so much for the love. Definitely come on in, everybody, and let us know if you're here. We're going to watch Clifford do a little bit of walking this morning, a little bit of exercising. Nice job. Thanks, guys. All right, so let's put him down and see if Mr. Clifford wants to walk around for us. Good morning, Clifford. Hello. How's it going? So Clifford is one of the 4 box turtles. Hello, Susan. Good morning. One of our 4 box turtle ambassadors here at the center. He was one of the original founding ambassadors of the Center for Wildlife. So he has been with us since we were founded in 1986. He's an older fellow. Good morning, Donna. Good morning. So Clifford here is about probably 35, 40 years old. Good morning, Brendan. Good morning, Kristen. Good morning, Joe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I think we had a question. So we had a question about why it's so hard to find these guys. And the answer to that is they're actually pretty endangered in our area. We have just a few of them in Maine, really only in southern Maine, and then a little bit more New Hampshire, but they really don't start becoming more common until you get down to Massachusetts. And that's has a couple of reasons. One, they are found in a little bit more southern of a range than here. Sorry for the phone, guys. You are in our medical clinic, so we are still taking admissions, answering phone calls, all of that good stuff. Yes, so they are found up and down the East Coast. These guys are eastern box turtles. That's the subspecies. And they extend up into southern Maine for their range, but that's really as far north as they go, and they become less and less common as they go up that far north. So there were already not so many of them up here, and then habitat development or destruction and development have really limited the habitats on these guys. Wow, we have a lot of people checking in. Thank you guys so much for saying good morning. I'll try to make sure I say hi to everybody. So Joanne, hello, thank you so much. Brittany, he has not eaten his breakfast. These guys have really slow metabolisms. They actually only eat every other day. So he is not eating this morning, although I do have some treats for him. We'll see if he's interested at all. We have some little mealworms. These guys love to eat insects, invertebrates, worms, earthworms, grubs, things like that. So we'll see. Oh, it looks like he wants them. It's always so funny to watch them eat, I think. Because they don't look like they would be particularly good predators, but you can see his aim is spot on. Nice job, Clifford. Good morning, Xander. Good morning. These are probably among his favorite foods. He also really loves fish, Penelope, and earthworms, things like that. Nice job. Nice job. Good morning, Amanda. He does know he's so handsome. So yes, we will post these videos on YouTube, and they'll be up on Facebook after we are done filming. Good morning, Ryan. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me know you're here. Good morning. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. We really appreciate being able to stay connected with you during this time. I apologize for the shaky cam, because I'm trying to get as close up to Mr. Clifford as I can. So we have a question about his shell. Turtles are amazing. Their shells are part of their skeleton. They actually attach to their skeletons on the underside of that shell. So it is a part of his spine. His spine attaches right here on the underside of his shell. They have this shell to protect themselves from predators, to keep them safe. And it also helps with camouflage, the different coloring that he has. Good morning. Oh, okay. We'll move. We have an admission coming in. We don't want to be in our admission area when that happens. So we'll move Mr. Clifford when we do that. So he is not actually injured. Clifford came to us because he was somebody's pet for many, many years. It used to be very common to find these turtles in the pet trade. You could buy them in pet stores. People would go out in the wild and take them from the wild as little hatchlings. That's what we call baby turtles. When a turtle hatches from its egg, you're so cute. Oh my goodness. They're only about the size of a quarter. They're very, very tiny. And that means that they're really easily picked up by people and predators. And so they would take them from the wild and and sell them in pet stores as pets. So we actually don't really even know where Clifford is from. We don't know what his home range is. He has been raised by people for long enough that he probably wouldn't do too well in the wild. And having a home range is really important for these guys. It's important for them to get back to where they are from originally. They usually would only live in a small area, probably 1 to 3 miles in radius throughout most of their life. And they will live there their whole lives. And the females will actually lay their eggs in the same place every year, the same place where they were hatched, the same place where their grandmothers were hatched. So they really need to be put back into their home range. So let's see if we have any other questions. He is not a tortoise. He is what we call a land turtle. So he is actually more closely related to other pond turtles than he is to tortoises. They're all in the terrapin, or in the testudine family, along with tortoises and testudines, but or terrapins, sorry guys, but they are more closely related to turtles. So he is a box turtle, not a box tortoise. And a general rule of thumb is that tortoises like to live on land and turtles like to live in or near water. And box turtles do prefer an aquatic habitat. They like to live someplace next to a pond or a stream. They really love to bask and or wade in the water. So they do prefer a wetland habitat. And that's why where we are at the Center for Wildlife is such a beautiful spot for these sorts of turtles, for Blanding's turtles, all sorts of pond-dwelling turtles, because we have all of the beautiful vernal pools around us. We love to go in and eat frog eggs and insect larvae, things like that. They'll eat lots of tick larvae in the vernal pools. So they do a great job. These guys are omnivores in the wild, so they'll eat a little bit of everything. They, as you can see, prefer live prey, prefer worms to other things, but they'll also eat vegetation and berries. You got it. You can do it. There you go. Nice job. It's so interesting watching him hunt. So what they'll do is they'll dig in the ground with these claws that they have. They're not very sharp, but they're very strong, and they help him to dig around in the dirt, and he'll dig up grubs and worms and things. So he's not actually physically injured. He is perfectly healthy. He's doing really good with us, but he just doesn't really understand how to be a turtle anymore. So we have a question about, oh, hello, everybody is tuning in. Thank you guys so much. I'll try to keep up with comments and everything. So Clifford, again, is one of our box turtle ambassadors. Box turtle is a pretty general term for these guys. We do have several different subspecies that we can find in the wild. He is what we call a three-toed box turtle. Three-toed box turtles are called that because they have 3 little toes on their back feet. So you can see he only has 3 little toes back here. And other turtles usually would have 4 of them. So he is generally a little bit smaller, and they are from a more southern range, so he would not necessarily be native to this area, although we do have eastern box turtles up this far north, and those guys are sometimes also called like common box turtles, but they're all subspecies of the box turtle species. So yeah, like them. Julian has a question about what makes him move so slowly. That's a great question. Box turtles and other reptiles are what we call cold-blooded animals. So that means they're not able to keep themselves warm. They rely on whatever temperature it is around them in the room or in the space to keep them going, to keep their energy moving, to help their cells do what they need to do. So he is really on the inside just about as warm as it is in the center right now, which is about like 70 degrees, maybe 68 degrees, which is quite a bit colder than we are. So his metabolism is a bit slower than ours, quite a bit, and he is going to be whatever temperature it is in the room on the inside of his body. So he moves slowly because he is only relying on that ambient energy to make him move, to make his cells work. That's a great question, though. And all of our reptiles are cold-blooded. So all of our snakes and turtles and alligators and crocodiles, they all rely on the warmth from the sun or the warmth from the earth to help keep them going and help keep them healthy. So this is why in the winter these guys are not found running around. They're going to be underground, living below the frost line, living in the earth where it's warmer. Okay, let's see if we can get to some more of your questions. Celeste would like to know how hard their shell is. Their shell is incredibly hard. It is a part of their skeleton, so it is made up of bone. So they have bone underneath here, and then on top is this thin layer of what we call keratin, and that's the same stuff that our hair and nails are made up of. And that just helps to protect that bone. There's also some vascularized tissue under here, so they do have blood flow to their shells. And what a lot of people don't know is that they can actually feel pressure and sensation on their shell. It's like when we touch the top of our fingernail, we can still feel pressure and know that we're being touched. So when kids, pet Clifford and they start tapping on him, it's my job to say, wait, he can actually feel that. Don't do that. But it is incredibly hard. And what's interesting is when they hatch from their egg, they're usually very, very tiny, like I said, about the size of a quarter. And their shells are soft when they're first born, kind of like how our bones are soft when we're born. And they harden up as they get older. Really quickly after getting exposed to oxygen in the air. So these guys will be very vulnerable to predators when they're that little, and lots of things like to eat baby turtles. You got a little dust or something. I know, I'm sorry. Lots of animals will prey on baby turtles when they're that little. But then once they get to be a pretty good size like this, they're actually really good at protecting themselves inside of that shell. And box turtles are famous for doing this. They are called box turtles because they actually use their shell kind of like a box. So Clifford here has this tall dome shell. This is pretty tall for a turtle. A lot of turtles will have a more flat shell, a skinnier shell. and he can actually fit all of his limbs and his head inside of that shell. And then what he can do is, if he's really scared of a predator, which doesn't happen too often, Clifford is pretty gregarious and outgoing, what he can do is actually fold up his shell. You pooped! Oh my goodness! Let's move over here. Let's get the poop out of the shot. So he has this hinge on the underside of his shell, you guys can see. And he is pretty used to me doing this, so he's okay. But this hinge, this line right by my thumb, is actually a hinge, like the hinge on a door, so that when he gets scared, he can actually close up the front part of his shell in front of his face, like a little trap door, and the back of his shell as well. So he can be completely protected. Where are you going? By bone armor when he gets scared. Nice job. Good morning, Sue. Good morning, Becky. Becky, we know that he is a boy because of a couple of things. So number one, most turtles will have, on male turtles, the underside of their shell will be a little bit more concave, and the female's underside to her shell will be flat. And then in box turtles, you can actually tell their gender or their sex based on the color of their eyes. So if you see, Clifford has pretty red eyes that blend in nicely with his skin. Girl box turtles usually will have brown eyes, and they'll usually not have as much beautiful red coloring on them. And they usually won't have as much coloring on their skin because they will be trying to blend in and protect their eggs. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Liam and Luke. Hello, everybody. He is so sweet. Good morning, Kelsey and Caitlin. So Celeste, yes, they are called box turtles because their shells will act like a box and protect them. So we have a question from Alex. Do they have preferred temperature or climates they live in or swim in? So these guys can't really swim. They actually will sink if they go too far into water, but they do like to wade into ponds and streams just up to their necks. It helps to keep them hydrated. They do like a very moist environment. They do like to be very well moisturized, or they like to be in high humidity environments. So they do like to be in the leaf litter next to a pond. They'll migrate or adjust where they are based on the humidity. So they do like to keep that pretty high. And we actually have a little fogger mister machine in our enclosure for these guys to make sure that you got a little bit, there you go, to make sure that they stay nice and moist. And they also like to be fairly warm. They do need a range in temperatures, because in the wild, obviously, they wouldn't get to be 75 and sunny all the time, so they can handle a little bit lower of a temperature, but they do prefer a range so that they can move around. They can bask in warm sun if they want to. They can go be a little bit colder if they want to. You'll see them a lot of times burying themselves underground for the evening, especially in the spring. So one of our box turtles, Lily, will bury herself underground in her outdoor enclosure, and it's pretty tricky to find her. We do bring them inside in the evening, and they go outside in the summer when it's warm enough. But they will adjust where they are based on the temperature. So they like to stay pretty warm, upwards of 50. We try not to, that's why we're inside today, because it's pretty chilly out. We try not to get them outside until it's at least 50, 60 degrees out. There you go. But they are a little hardier. They can live in all sorts of climates. Good morning, Jessica, Martin, Amy, Maxwell. Hello. He is so handsome. Good morning, Christopher and Diana. Good morning, Megan. Brittany, we just talked, I'm not sure if you saw, but we did say he does have red eyes. That's how we know he's a boy, as well as his shell shape. Good morning, Kathy and Caroline, Nana, Jackson, hello. Is he a land turtle? Yes. So Melissa, Liam, yes, he is a land turtle. So these guys are a species that would be found on land. They don't really swim. You can see he has this very tall shell. That would make it really difficult for him to swim. It would produce a lot of drag. He would actually be pretty slow in the water, have a hard time getting away from predators. So we can tell that he would not be a very good swimmer. And then if you also look at his toes, if you look at his feet, he does not have the typical webbed toes, now you're going to move, of a water turtle. He is very good at walking around on land. So you can see when he gets grip on the towel, he can actually really move. And in the water, he would need something to help push water around. He would need, flippers or big fins or webbed feet, something like that. And he has these claws that help him to dig into the dirt instead. So that's another way that we can tell that he's a land turtle. He can really book it when he wants to. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anna, for donating. We really appreciate it. Again, there is a donation button for you guys. We support all of our work here at the center with donations from people like you, as well as businesses and grants. So thank you so much. How big is the biggest one? So he is a pretty small box turtle. They can get about twice his size. We do have a one that's bigger named Big Mama. Good morning, Kristen. Hello. Thank you guys so much. Hello, Ruben. Hello, Caitlin. Hello, Beth. Hi, Linda. Linda, we miss you. These guys are actually found. We have a question from Heather. They're found along the eastern seaboard, eastern box turtles for that matter. But then they are also found on the west coast, and those guys are western box turtles, obviously. They're pretty closely related, but they're all classified as common box turtles. And then there are other subspecies too called ornate box turtles. There are all sorts of different kinds of little subspecies or breeds of these guys, but we call them all common box turtles. And they're found throughout the United States, but especially along the eastern seaboard. Nice job. Hello, Maria. Why do they like to eat bugs? That's a great question. So bugs are full of protein. So eating a little worm like that is going to be a great source of nutrients for this guy. Their exoskeletons also are made up of keratin, so those provide a lot of fiber. These guys will also eat lots and lots of different things in the wild. They'll eat vegetation and berries as well. They'll eat larvae. They love to eat tick larvae and mosquito larvae, so thank you, Clifford. But mostly they're going to be after all that protein, because protein is really what helps them to regenerate their cells and make sure that their bodies are kept going. And the really cool thing about these turtles, and one of the reasons why we actually don't recommend keeping them as pets, is that they can live an incredibly long life. So box turtles in the wild usually will average around 50. Once they get to be an adult, they usually will average around 50, but then they can live, and a lot of them do live, upwards of 100 years old. So they can live even longer than we can. And many people will be outlived by their pet turtles. Unfortunately, it's very hard to keep good care of them. So a lot of box turtles in captivity actually have shorter lifespans than you would expect them to have in the wild, because they don't have the proper diet or the proper humidity or proper habitat. But when they're kept well in captivity, they can live well beyond 100 years old. You'd have to give your box turtle to somebody in your will if you got them as an adult. So they actually are incredibly tricky to keep as pets. Where are you trying to go, buddy? He says, I hear somebody in the kitchen, and I think they might have food. Clifford would normally not get so many mealworms. We usually try to vary his diet. We give him worms, we give him fish, maybe sometimes some cut up mice. We try to give him a variety of food items. You can't go over there, buddy. There we go. So he can eat quite a few worms if he wants to. He loves these probably eat somewhere around 20 or 30 of them. He loves them. What is the difference between a box turtle and a tortoise? That's a really great question. So mostly the biggest difference is genetics. They're pretty far apart on their relationships to each other. So the tortoise has evolved to live completely on land and often in desert climates, so with very little water. And the box turtle does like to live near water. So he does like to live near a vernal pool, near a pond, and he has adaptations for that. You'll also see on tortoises, they do tend to get more ridges on their shell. They tend to look a little bit more prehistoric than many turtle species. All right. Good morning. Good morning, Katie. Hello, we miss you. Okay, Rob, good morning. Thank you so much, Kim and Serena, for donating. That's so sweet. Okay, excuse me. Where are you going? Does he ever outgrow his shell? That's a great question that I'm glad you asked. So a lot of folks will get the way that turtle shells work confused with the way that hermit crab shells work. Hermit crabs will use a shell and they'll live inside of a shell. They'll find one and then go live inside of it. And then when they outgrow that shell, they'll move on and find a new one that's larger. His shell is actually a part of his skeleton. So you can see he has a line running on the back of his shell. And that is actually his spine. And so he is permanently attached to his shell. They cannot come out of their shell. And so his shell continues to grow with him throughout his life. I have a little hatchling snapping turtle that has passed away, and you can see the ribs and spine really well on that snapping turtle. So their shell, their bones in their shell, their growth plates actually continue to grow throughout their lives, just like our bones, like the bones in our leg when we're a baby are very short and then they grow with us. The same is true for our box turtles, all of our turtles. So they cannot come out of their shell, but their shell will continue to grow and accommodate them as they get bigger. Xander, how old is he? So he is somewhere around, we are not completely sure, he is somewhere around 35, 40 years old. And we know this because he has been with us since we were founded in the 80s. So we have a pretty good idea that he is at least 35, 40 years old. But he was a pet for years before that. So we are not completely certain of his age. There are some people who say you can kind of count the shell's rings on some turtles, but that's usually pretty inaccurate. And he obviously doesn't have as many distinct lines on his shell. They tend to get worn down. So, so on some turtles you can, but it's a pretty inaccurate estimate, kind of like the rings of a tree. Rob, box turtles are technically not a tortoise because they're not genetically related to tortoises. They're genetically more related to turtles. It all has to do with taxonomy. I know that's a pretty boring answer, but it's true. Thomas says, hi, good morning from Kennebunk. I was just in Kennebunk yesterday. Good morning. How big do they get? So this is as big as Clifford will get. He is, he might grow a tiny, tiny bit more as he gets older. They do continue to grow a little bit throughout their lives, so he might get a little bit older, but we haven't seen him get larger in the last, I would say 10 years, 15 years, maybe longer, before my time. So we actually don't expect him to get much bigger, but box turtles can get to be about twice as big as Clifford. Clifford is pretty small, and that has to do with the subspecies. He's a three-toed box turtle. That's the subspecies, so he's still within the same species as our common box turtles, our eastern box turtles, but his breed or his subspecies is this three-toed box turtle because he only has 3 little toes on his back feet, and most of them do have 4. So a common box turtle could get to be maybe twice as big as Clifford. Great question. Good morning, Clifford. I know, he is getting lots of exercise today. I don't know what it is that he wants maybe over there. I think he's looking for more food. Or maybe he's saying, I want to go back to bed. That's wonderful. We have a story from Orion. Found a tiny baby box turtle this morning by our pond. That is so cool. And he should definitely go back out there because he was probably very, very happy out by that pond. It's the time of year when we do see our box turtles coming out of the ground. They spend most of the winter underground below the frost line so they don't freeze. And this is the time of year when we start to see them emerge. Once the ground warms up a little bit, it starts raining. These guys will usually come out and eat lots of worms once it starts raining a lot, and they get all those exposed worms. And then they'll actually start breeding and mating very soon. And the cool thing is that the females will actually return to their nest that they were hatched out of, the same general area, to lay their eggs in about a month or so. We might start seeing turtle signs going up, turtle crossing signs, and those are really good to keep an eye out for because they let you know that there might be a female box turtle trying to cross in your area, or a painted turtle or a snapping turtle. All sorts of different turtles will be moving around very shortly. And so it's a good idea to keep your eyes out. You can help turtles cross the road if you see them. We always advise, taking your personal safety into account and being very, very careful, wearing gloves, making sure an adult is there. But if all that is the case, then you can actually help these turtles cross the roads. If you see a turtle trying to cross, we recommend with your gloves on, if it's a small little turtle like this, like a painted turtle or a box turtle, or even up to the size of a Blandings turtle, you can pick them up and help them along the road. You can put them on the other side of the road in the direction they were going, and that will help them to just shorten their journey, make their journey a little bit quicker. But if you don't want to put them back on the side of the road that they were coming from, because then they're just going to try to cross again. You also don't want to take them away from the area entirely and put them in, a cool pond that you think might suit them, because that would remove them from their native habitat, and that would be bad. They really need to be in one area. They spend their whole lives within a 1 to 3 mile radius of themselves. So they are very, very cute. Thank you. So we have also snapping turtles in our area, and snapping turtles are a little bit different. They are very, very large, so they can get to be up to about the size of like a dinner plate, up to 50 pounds. And we do not want to necessarily be putting our hands anywhere near them because people have been known to get snapped. So what we recommend doing is ushering them across the road. If they are running away from you, kind of trying to get them into the across the road in the area they were going. And then if you can't do that, if for some reason they're not moving or they're being stubborn, you can try to get them onto maybe a car mat or a towel and drag them across on that. You never want to drag them on their bellies. There's, a lot of people will say to drag them across by like a broom or something, but they have a lot of exposed skin on the underside of their shell, and they can get road rash from doing that. So we recommend using a towel or a floor mat in your car to move them across to the side of the road. Caroline would like to know, why do they have a tail? So the tail in this little guy might be pretty not have much of a purpose. It does help to protect their bums a little bit, but we actually have a tail too. We have a tailbone. That's a vestigial organ, is what we call something that we used to have many, many millions of years ago, but has evolved away, has gone away. So his tail might have a little bit of a vestigial function, but many other turtles will use their tails to help them to swim, like a rudder. So in some turtles it is very important.
How do they find their prey? That's a great question. So he has wonderful claws for digging. So these guys dig in the dirt. They also will wade in water that might have a lot of vegetation in them. And that will, hi buddy, that will allow them to just kind of fish their prey out of the water. They'll usually be very still and then kind of pounce on them the way that you've seen him doing. Do we have a snapping turtle ambassador? No, but I think that would be very cool because they are very misunderstood. We love to educate about animals that are not well understood. Maybe someday. But for now we have 4 of our box turtle friends and then 2 of our painted turtle friends and then 1 cute little spotted turtle, Percy, that you guys may have met. And then in the works we do have paperwork started on a wood turtle ambassador, so we're very excited to have those different kinds of turtles. Good morning, Michelle, we miss you. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you have any other questions for us, please let me know and I will try to answer them here. If I don't get to your questions, we will certainly be answering them in the comments. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and being so active in the comments today. I really appreciate it. And then as always, we have the donate button, so please feel free to donate. It helps to support the care of Mr. Clifford here as well as all of our other ambassadors and patients. Angela asks, what are their top predators? Their top predators are usually when they're younger, they're going to be easily preyed on by raccoons, coyotes, dogs, and cats. When they're very little, they're only about that big, and they have soft shells, so they're not yet protected by that shell. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll tune in again tomorrow. Kristen Lamb will be with us tomorrow doing our morning meeting. You want to say goodbye? He says, I'm going to go this way. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, Clifford.